Welcome to the Political Economy of the Environment videos. I'm Jim Boyce. Today's episode is about discounting the future. The basic idea of discounting is that future costs and benefits shouldn't count as much, shouldn't weigh as much in our decision making today as near-term costs and benefits that accrue to us now. So the value of $1,000 today, in our hands today, is worth more than what's called the present value of $1,000 10 or 100 years down the road. And that's not about inflation, that's talking about $1,000 with the same purchasing power in 10 or 100 years as $1,000 today. In other words, discounting shrinks the present value of future costs and future benefits. Here's a thought experiment. Would you rather have $1,000 today or $1,000 in 10 years? How much would you have to get in 10 years to be worth equally attractive as $1,000 today? If I was giving you a choice, how much more would I have to offer you in 10 years to make you take that instead of $1,000 today? Let's say your answer is $1,500. You're kind of equally inclined to take either $1,000 today or $1,500 10 years from now. The difference is based on, implicitly, your discount rate, the rate at which you're converting that future $1,500 into its present value today and comparing that to $1,000 on hand today. The way this happens can be shown mathematically in a very simple formula. The discount rate in this formula works like an interest rate in reverse. Instead of converting present values into future values, that's what an interest rate does. Instead, it converts future values into present values by dividing by 1 plus the discount rate raised to the power t, where t is the number of years. That's the formula for discounting. So to illustrate that, let's go back to our thought experiment. Say $1,500 in 10 years is equivalent to $1,000 today. What's your implicit discount rate? Well, you can solve that equation, and your implicit discount rate was a little over 4%. At that discount rate, $1,500 in 10 years is worth $1,000 today. Conversely, if you use that as an interest rate, you could invest the $1,000 today at a little over 4%, and it'd be worth $1,500 in 10 years. Why do individuals do this? Why do individuals discount, right? Well, one reason, as I've just sort of intimated, is that if you invest money today, it'll be worth more tomorrow. At an interest rate of 4.14%, $1,000 today will be worth about $1,500 10 years down the road. But another reason why we discount is that we don't actually know that we're going to be around in 10 years. We hope we will, but who knows? So we don't know how long we're going to be alive, and that uncertainty, of course, gives us a reason to value $1 today more than $1 or maybe even $1.50 10 years down the road. And finally, people are often myopic. They're short-sighted, right? They have what economists call pure time preference. They'd just rather have it now and worry about tomorrow. The question that I want you to think about, that we all need to think about, is whether the same logic that individuals use in their individual decisions in discounting the future ought to apply to the decisions that we make as a society too. Because when we're thinking about the society, we're not just thinking about ourselves and how much we would like to have $1 today versus $1 tomorrow. We're also thinking about future generations, about people who aren't here yet and who don't have a voice in the decisions we're making unless we take their interests into account. Discounting across generations means we're weighing present benefits more than the same benefits in the future because those future benefits, future well-being is discounted. It counts for less in present value terms. Let me give you an example of this that's not about dollars, but about human lives. You can discount anything. You could discount dollars, you could discount lives, you could discount whatever. Here's the question. If we have a 5% discount rate, which is in the ballpark of discount rates that are often used, how much Are a billion lives, a billion human lives 500 years from now worth today in terms of present lives? In other words, what benefit would we have to have today in terms of saving human lives that would make it worth it, would make it quote unquote efficient to sacrifice a billion human beings 500 years down the road? And if you do that math, if you look at the present value of a billion lives 500 years from now at a 5% discount rate, the answer is we would have to save less than one life today. In fact, all we would have to do is reduce the risk of losing one person today. We'd have to reduce that risk by 2.5%. And if we could achieve that benefit today, that would be quote unquote worth sacrificing a billion people 500 years from now. It would pass the cost-benefit test because we are discounting those future losses using that 5% discount rate. I'm glad, actually, that people 500 years ago hadn't come to that same kind of basis for making social decisions. It'd be pretty tough today to see a billion of us die and try to look back and say, well, 500 years ago, somebody reduced their chance of dying by a few percent, and that benefit was worth it because they were using a discount rate. But that's, in effect, what discounting does vis-a-vis future generations when we use it today to make decisions not about me and you as individuals, but about society. So discounting can make small present benefits seem to be worth very large future costs. Discounting makes the benefits today look big and makes the costs in the future look small. And whether that's ethically defensible or not is really a question of values. It's a question of ethics. It's not something that you can test and say, is this the right thing or not on some factual basis. It's a normative question, a question of ethical values. Is it ethical to discount the well-being of future generations? And if so, how much? That's a choice that you and I have to make together as a society that can't be totally based on just how we think about our own well-being as individuals. Thanks very much.